Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 7 of our Salesforce Platform Developer Training. And tonight, we're going to continue with DML statements, and we're going to do more advanced stuff on Apex. Okay, without wasting much time, let me go into the developer console and get started. I'm just going to copy this link so I can walk in my browser. So yesterday, we had a case study regarding lead insert into the system. Okay, so it says if lead exists, update the lead record, otherwise insert. So we created a very simple method that enables us to call this function anywhere in the Salesforce org. In addition to that, we also created a return data type that ensures that anytime this upset is completed, is going to return something. So the best practice is to actually check if upset was completed. So what you want to do here is not just upset like this. You want to use a try and a catch, because anytime you are communicating with a database, chances are your operation can fail. So you want to upset, okay, in a try and catch. Okay, something like that. Also, you want to check if upset works. Salesforce. So there's always a response when you are upsetting, and you can check, okay, try catch, upset account list, which is fine. But you can also check using the database query, which I described yesterday, okay? Whereby you get the results and you check if the upset is true. Then based on that outcome, you can determine whether to continue or not. Because one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to upset an empty list, okay? You don't want to upset an empty list. You don't want to upset an empty object. You want to upset something that has data, okay? So this is just telling us I will just put a DML exception, okay? Except. So exception is like the data type for the error that comes out when you are trying a DML transaction. Okay, so this was pretty much what we did yesterday, but there is more to just inserting records. What if we have a relationship with the lead objects? Okay, what if we have a relationship with the lead objects, and this relationship is a master? The lead will be a master, and another object will be the child. And we want to upset, or we want to insert record into another object, or we want to create a relationship between the lead and a custom object. How do you insert data? You can just quickly create a very simple object. Let's call it categories, or let's call it preference. Okay, preference, and we call it preferences. So what does this mean? It means when a lead comes into the system, the lead has a preference. A preference is what the lead is subscribing into. Let's say you're running a newsletter management, or you're running a subscription model, and someone go to your website to subscribe. You can have different forms on different pages of your website, okay? And when they subscribe to this, they are subscribing to Salesforce Developer. When they subscribe to this, they're subscribing to Service Cloud newsletter and the likes. So how do you measure, how do you store those records? You can relate two objects together and store them based on what they've requested from you. So I'm naming this preference. So if you want to create the relationship between a lead and a preference, knowing that a lead, someone that is interested in the program, can have many interests. Learn more, subscribe. Learn more, subscribe. Learn more, subscribe. That means one person, one lead, can have many subscriptions. And one subscription, which is a preference, which is a program or a course, can belong to many leads. So what does that tell you? It tells me that I can create another object, which I'm going to refer to as a lead preference. And the lead preference would be a junction object, because one of the students is interested in Salesforce Consultant, subscribe. The same student is interested in Salesforce Marketing Cloud, subscribe. The same student is interested in Sales Cloud, subscribe. That means one person has chosen 3 subscriptions, like 3 courses or programs or preference in this case. And one preference belongs to many students. So what you want to create is called a master detail relationship. Okay? It's a very good use case for a master detail relationship. Now, for me to relate my lead and my lead preference together, I need to create what I call a master detail relationship. Okay? I go to my lead. What object is this? Lead preference. Go to, oh, I cannot. This is a chart, so let me see. Let me go to preference. Just give me 1 minute. Go to preference. New. Master detail. So we have, probably can't create this either. We have lead preference, okay? No, I don't want that. I want the other way. Lead preference. I'll see if we can create a master detail. We can just create a required lookup, okay? We can just create a required lookup instead of a master detail because the lead is a standard object, okay? So you cannot create, the custom object cannot be on the child, okay? So I'm looking for preference. Okay. Next. Save. Okay. So now I have a relationship between lead and lead preference. What I can do here is, because we cannot create this kind of relationship, what we can do, because lead will not appear here, because lead is a standard object, we can just select a lookup relationship. Okay. And make it the lead relationship. Show options. Add this existing custom report type. That's fine. Okay. So let's see if that would work for the kind of stuff we want to do. Let me go to the schema and show the schema. Okay. Schema builder. And clear all, a lead. lead preference, which is fine. Then I'm still going to have a preference, right? Preference. Okay, so these two are being joined with lead preference. This is what we want, right? Although it would have been better if this was a master, but it's not a master, so it's just like this. That's fine. So we have this relationship. Now, I want to create a preference, and I want to create a lead preference, meaning that a lead would have a lead preference, okay? So I go back to my code, and I have this, okay? I'll just comment all this as we don't need them, or I just undo from yesterday, okay? But obviously, best practice for you is to always wrap your upsets within a try and catch, okay? So now let's carry on. I have the preference right now. So what I can do is I can literally copy this, but let's have some fun. Let's create a method that creates what? A preference void. Okay? Creates or updates preference, right? And you can call it PF. Okay? But if you want this, because we don't have preference is number one, a custom object. So you have to put the _C there based on the API name, starting with that, okay? The other thing is we don't have much fields in preference, right? So let's just quickly create some fields in preference to make it more interesting. Preference, and I go to the preference, and I decide to say, you know what? I want a name, which is fine. I also want, what else do I need in a preference? A name is just about right. But in the lead preference, I want to find out what the lead is, and I want to find out if the lead is active in the lead preference. Okay? So in the lead preference, I can just create a new field called is active, which is checkbox, just to have some field to play around with. It's active. Okay? So now we have this next, save. So we have something in the lead preference, we have something in lead, and we have something in the preference, okay? So we're good. So now we have this. So what happens is we can just pretty much create a new preference, okay? We can just say, this is coming with preference. We can just say insert, okay? Insert PF. Because this is coming as a preference and is going to insert. But if you want to make sure that it has the create or update feature, you can just say preference list, okay? This is me checking if the preference exists, okay? I'll just call it PF. You guys will know what list PF is, okay? If list PF exists, you can just put the condition, right? Just like we did yesterday. Meaning that if list of PF is not null, I want to update, okay? I want to update the list preference, okay? And if it is null, I want to do what? If it is null, I want to insert, okay? So pretty much, I need to create an instance of that lead, okay? So what is new lead? New lead is what is coming, PF. Okay, then else, insert, okay? Updates PF, okay? This is like a very simple, straightforward approach to creating and updating a list preference. New lead, everything is good. So now we've created a simple method that creates or updates a preference based on what I taught you yesterday. Very, very straightforward and easy. This is why I say you should have reusable code, okay? What that means is that I can literally copy this and create another method that does what? That creates or update lead preference. But you have to be very careful here. Why? Because lead preference is a relation. There's a relationship. So you need to know what exactly you're doing. So I'm going to call lead preference. Okay? LPF. And list LPF, just for us to make sense out of it, where name equals LPF.name. Okay? So I'm checking my lead preference to find out if this lead preference exists. Okay, there's so many errors. Let me check what the errors are. Invalid type lead preference. Just go and check what we name it in the details. Go back to develop. Okay, that's fine. So we are creating or updating lead preference, right? The list is this. No. Oh, yeah. Okay. LPF. But please, always try and catch. If you don't try and catch, this will fail at some point. It might not fail immediately, but it will fail eventually if you are not trying or catching these DML statements. So now that we've created a very simple method that can help us to create or update lead preference. Create or update preference. Okay, so we've created this. So what exactly do we want to do? Why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? The purpose of this is to be able to create a lead and a lead preference and making sure that the lead preference is associated to the lead. So when you're creating or updating a lead preference, what exactly are you looking out for? Why or what exactly are you looking out for? You're looking out whether this lead preference has what? You're looking out if the lead preference has what? A lead. Okay? If it has a lead. You're not looking for the name, which obviously can be dynamic. But you want to find out if it has a lead. And if it has a lead, then you can update the lead preference. If it doesn't have a lead, then you can insert the lead preference. So remember, you are not checking the name because name could be anything. Name could be anything. You're checking the relationship. Is the relationship you're checking to find out if you need to update or insert. Okay? So if the lead preference is coming, you can also be passing the lead objects. So what's the lead object? The lead object is the lead that is coming in. What is the lead preference? The lead preference is the preference set on the lead. Okay, so what we could also do is we can say preference is collected differently, which is this. That means we are sending in the preference and we're sending in the lead, but both of them would turn into a lead preference eventually. Okay, so now let's carry on. I want to check if the lead exists, where lead equals, you can just say dot ID. Because how do you check if a lead exists? You check if a lead exists based on the ID of the lead, because it's a lookup. That lookup is what you're checking. You're not checking the name or anything like that. So we have this. So let's correct any error we might have, starting from here. Okay, 21, invalid type preference, meaning that preference is a custom object and we're just calling it preference. So it's telling us invalid type preference, okay? We save. Then it's gonna tell you, I don't understand this relationship. Where lead object.id, no such column as lead on lead preference. Remember what I told you. When you want to find the relationship, you go into the lookup and you go into the child relationship. It's very important you know this, because this is how you would be able to query the child. Okay, so I don't think it's going to be lead. Okay, I don't think it's going to be maybe where lead. You can just say where lead preferences. Okay, because that's the name of the child. That's the name of the relationship. Okay, where lead preferences are. So what you want to do here is, first of all, let's take this off and comma, select ID. Okay, select ID from okay, let's see this relationship. Okay, so what I've done pretty much is this. Instead of querying my lead preference, I've just queried my lead, but because I know the child is the lead preferences and I'm querying the child from the lead. Okay, this was what we did when we were doing SOQL. Okay, SOSQL. Okay, now, because we know that lead preferences is now coming out, I can just put the where clause name equals the lead object. Okay, something like that. Now we know definitely we are only querying all leads that has this lead object name. However, we're also getting the lead preferences from that. Okay, so let's see what is missing. It says missing identifier at. Remember, your binding variable. You need to put this column here, okay? So pretty much we're done. We've gotten all the leads and the lead preferences inside the lead. So what do we want to check now? What do we want to check? We want to check if this lead preferences is what? Is empty. If it is empty, then we want to insert. If it is not empty, we want to update, okay? So please understand this. This is very straightforward, but it can be confusing. You want to create or update a lead preference, meaning that I want to create the association between a lead and a lead preference. I want to create the association between a student and the program they're enrolling into. But before I do that, I want to check if the student has not, okay? If the student has not updated or have not created or the student have not subscribed to a particular course. If they have subscribed, I'll just say, okay, this student is just coming back again to subscribe, okay? Which obviously is just going to be an update. But if the student hasn't subscribed before, you want to insert, okay? So how do you do that? You want to select this list lead, okay? And I'm going to say list of lead dot, remember, dot lead preferences, because that is what I queried out from the child. Then I'm checking if it is empty. I hope this makes sense. I'm checking if there are lead preferences for this lead. If it is not empty, let's do something about it. If it is empty, let's do something about it, okay? So now I'm checking this and I'm saying, okay, if it is not empty, I want to loop through, or I want to do something about that lead, okay? Let's put a comment here and come back to this use case, okay? But let's go to here. If it is empty, what do I want to do? I want to create a new lead preference, okay? Lead preference, new lead preference equals, okay? New lead preference. Remember, you have to use the object name when you're instantiating. But when you're doing relationship, you have to use the child relationship, okay? It's very important. So now I'm instantiating a new lead preference, and I'm just gonna say the new lead preference dot name equals whatever name you want, okay? Then you want to say, what else do you have? You have is active, which is a Boolean, okay? Then you want to is active equals true. So you don't need to put true into quotes because it's a Boolean, right? And it's an inbuilt statement. So we've done a case of if this lead does not have a lead preference, which is pretty much straightforward. Now let's go to a case where this lead has a lead preference. So what do we need to do here? We need to just grab the ID and just manipulate the ID, which is the list you're bringing out, okay? What is the list you're bringing out? Is associated to the list preferences. So just grab this like this and say, okay, this is the lead preference, okay? And equals to whatever it is. What is it? Whatever is coming from this preference center, okay? Let's assume the preference center is ABC. Okay, we've just updated. No, don't even let us say that. Let us say Sales Cloud. It's a more realistic value. So we've just updated the lead preference center based on what we want. So now let's look into what the error is. Variable active does not exist. So active underscore C, okay? Lead preferences underscore har does not exist. Lead preferences underscore har, which is, give me 1 minute. This is this. Give me 1 minute, I'm just checking this. So if you have this, you are list.list. Okay. I know the system.debug. Just checking out something. Okay. Okay. When you loop through this, when you get this, you get a list. You loop through the list to get the lead preference. Okay. So you don't get the lead preference like this. You get this as a list. Okay. So when you have a list, what do you do with a list? You loop through that list. Okay. And you get the lead preference. So what do you need to do? You just need to grab this list. Or lead. For lead. Okay. For lead, just say the lead inside list of leads. Okay. Now you have the for loop. The for loop, you have to put all these conditions, whatever it is, you have to put it in the for loop. Okay. Because now you're looping through the list of lead you're getting. Okay. So now, where else are we using lead preference? 26. So what you need to do here is you're looping through the list, and for one of the lists, you will get the lead. Okay. The lead is what you're going to use here. Okay. The lead is what you're going to use here, because now the lead would now have a relationship called lead preference because it has one lead. Okay. The lead that you're querying, this is a list that has lead. Okay. This list has lead. And you know that one of the lead has a lead preference. Because of that, you can now look through the list to grab one lead, which is the lead. Okay. The lead inside the leads in the list. Once you've grabbed that, then you can now grab the preferences for that lead. So if the lead preferences, if it is not empty, okay? If it is not empty, then you want to now maybe update, which is this, or you want to insert, which is this. So now let's address this. This is going to be the lead, okay? Because it is the lead you want to update. But then again, you have to be careful. The lead dot what? If you have the lead preference, which is this, you want to update this, okay? You want to update this. That is what you are trying to do. So you need to be very careful here. Lead preference is a master detail. Go and grab the lead preference. Okay. And you can just add that. Preference. This is objects. Just give me a moment, let me check. The lead preference is empty. So if this is not empty, then you want to do this. If this is empty, you want to do this. Two. Lead. I'm not updating lead. I'm updating this. Okay. Why is it not updating? lead, the lead inside the list of leads, which is the lead. Then, okay. So you have this lead and you want to get the preference center. Just give me 1 minute, let me see. I have the lead preferences is empty, which is a check to make sure that this lead is there. Then I need to update the lead preference. The lead preference is to create an instance of the lead preference. Okay. Lead preference object. Lead preference object. Okay, which is equal to the lead dots preference. Okay, let me just take a step back and try to understand this. The list, this is the list, selected preferences, which is fine. So inside the lead, I get list of leads, and inside the list of leads, I have leads preferences. Okay, that's fine. So now I also need to get the preference centers, because the preference centers is what I want to update the lead preference with. So now let me query this preference, okay? Just give me 1 minute. Let me query this. So I also have this, okay? List of lead of preference. Okay, select ID. I'll just take all this away. Okay, select ID, select name from preference. I don't need a where clause. That's fine. Okay, so I have list of preferences. Okay, so now I have list of preferences and I have the leads, which is fine. I have the preference and I have the lead objects. Okay, so now we know this data. What we want to do is we want to find out if the preference center that is coming in exists in the leads preferences. And based on that, we want to now update or insert. Okay, so now don't let us get confused. Let's take it step by step. So the first thing first is I want to check. What do I want to check? I want to check if this lead preferences has data. Okay, and if it has data, I want to check the value of the data. And the value of the data will now determine whether I update or insert. So now let's do a for loop for lead for preference EF inside list preferences. Okay, so I'm checking all the preferences, okay? All the preferences inside the preferences we have in the system. This is a loop that checks all the preferences inside the preferences we have in the system. Fine. So what should happen after checking? If the PF dots, if the PF dots lead Okay? Is that relationship that we don't have here? Let me see, because it's a master preference thing. We don't have that relationship. So I'm thinking of how to get that relationship. Just give me 1 minute. We have the preference PF in the list of preferences. I want to check if it exists. What if I don't need it to exist? I want to just use give me 1 minute. Let me see. For preference in the list preferences, and I want to check if it's empty. If it's not empty, then I can do something. But it's very important I check the value. Okay. The relationship needs to exist, otherwise we cannot do that. Okay, let me look for another way. So we have a list of lead, which is fine. We have a preference, which is fine. I want to check if the list adds the lead preference. So let me just check. I think this will be enough. List of leads dot lead. If the lead preferences dot is not empty, then do this. Okay. So the lead preferences, which is the lead dot lead preferences, the lead dot lead preferences. I can grab this. Okay. And let me just put this here. It's just that because of the relationship, it's getting error. Lead preferences. Okay, let me just query it out so I can get the relationship right. Okay, so I have this to select ID. So if I want to insert record into this, so I can just say select ID, lead preferences. So yeah, it's giving me this. So can I not just say this dot name? So if I want to grab this, yeah, it should go. Okay, lead preference. So lead preference, you can just, let's query this. Let's query this separately. Okay, let's query this separately. And let's have a list of lead preferences. Okay, so I can grab lists of lead preferences. Okay, so I have this, right? Then I can just look through and find out if this lead exists. Okay, so I have list of lead preferences. I have the lead. If this lead is not empty, which is fine, then the lead, I want to check if the lead of lead preferences, which I'm going to query, I want to check if it exists. So the lead preferences, it's not I have to be storing ID. So I have to be storing ID. Let me see. We got the relationship wrong. The relationship, it's a bit faulty. I was expecting a master detail relationship. Give me 1 minute. Let me see if I want to insert. on insert a new lead preference. Okay. I want to insert a new lead preference. What does it give me? LF does preference. I want to insert this. Okay. I just give it a random. Let's give it the ID of any preference center. Select ID from preferences. Okay. I don't have any data. Preferences. PF equals new preferences. PF.name Sales Cloud. Insert PF. Okay, just keep watching what I'm doing. I'm just trying to simulate a good use case for what we're doing, okay? So I have data, okay? I can just copy this. Okay, so I have this. Then I have this, okay? So I want to create a new lead preference and I want to give it a preference, okay? Insert LF. Let's see if this will go. So insert insert. Let me see if this will go. Lead preference. Lead preferences. Where's the object? Lead preferences. Okay. String to preference. Okay. We should go. PF does not exist. Insert PF. That means I have to copy everything. Legal assignment from ID to preference. This is a preference, okay? And this should be C, I think. Let's try this. Okay. So that tells us that if we want to create the lead preference, we just need to have this preference, okay? So first thing first is check the preference and insert the lead preference, okay? So let's just copy this and go back to our code. And let's take our time to do the create and insert, okay? So we have this. We have the list, which is fine. We have the list preferences, which is fine. Then we have the lead preferences list, which is fine. But what we're given is the preference. So if we're given the preference, what do we need to do? We need to put a where clause, okay? Name equals the preference, okay? So now, this list preferences would give us all preferences that is in the system that matches the preference that is coming in, okay? So the expectation is this should return just one preference. However, if it is more, we can just make it easier by putting this 0 here, right? But don't let us do that, okay? We now have these preferences. These preferences is what we need in order to create our lead, okay? Based on what we have here. Remember, we just need to get the first element of the preference because we put a where clause that is looking for the preference, okay? Is looking for the preference that is coming in. Then I grab the ID of that preference. But knowing that if I want to insert this, all I just need to do is grab this, okay? I know it might not make a lot of sense for you guys right now, but I'll explain it once again. So what have I done? I want to create or update a lead preference. And I'm passing in a preference and a lead. Preference indicating the program they enrolled into, and a lead indicating the student that is coming in. Now, I probably don't need this lead preferences, as you can see, because I'm not using it, okay? I need to look through the entire lead, okay? After looping through the entire lead, I also loop through the entire preference. However, I am putting a clause. The clause is find out if this preference exists and grab the ID of that preference, okay? Which is what we use here. Just the reason why we're querying this is to find the ID of this preference, okay? That's why we're querying this preference center, just to use this ID. We're querying this lead to find out if this lead already has a lead preference. So if it has a lead preference, then we can just update, which is this, which is what we did here. We don't need this, okay? We can just update with other things that is coming in, fine. If it does not exist, we can just create a new lead preference, okay? So what we're doing here is looking for the lead from the lead preference, checking if the lead preference is not empty. If it is not empty, that means the lead already exists in the lead preference. If this stuff is not empty, it means that the lead already exists in the system. Then we are updating it with the ID of the preference center, of the preference. If it is not present, we just go and create a new stuff. So what we could also do is we could just say delete.preference.active or whatever it is, and we update the active status, but we're not updating active status because we're just updating the lead, okay? So I'm just going to, I think Olushino has the question. I'm just going to take a pause to find out what Olushino has for his question. Unmute yourself and speak, Shino. Shino, please unmute yourself and speak. You have your hands raised. Shino, are you okay? Can I move on? Okay, I'm going to move on, okay? So now, let me explain again. Whatever we've done is the same as what we've done before. Checking if something exists and taking action. Can you try now, Shina? Can you try now? Can you speak? Yeah. Can you speak, Shina? I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Babatope. I could see something here. Select ID into bracket, select ID from lead preference. Is there a way? Is there a way to represent one of the to use alias for one of the IDs? Yeah, because there could be I'm confused when you say select ID. I understand what it means. Select one ID, and also in the other select statement, select all IDs.
I think you can do something like this. Let me see. I think you can do something like this. Then you now say QID. It's similar to SQL, but I think you can do something like this. I don't know, maybe you put it inside or outside, but you should be able to do something like this. Let me see. Yeah, it worked. Yeah, you can do something like that.
No, I think, can it be to give that, the ID will be there, but to give the ID a different name, a name that, which we can say that ID of lead preferences. Yeah, so which will definitely differentiate between the first ID and the second ID.
I know that's SQL, right? SQL can do that, but I'm not sure about SOQL. Okay. I'm not too sure about SOQL, but I know you can use alias, SOQL. Let's see. I know you can use alias in SOQL. So you have from C, right? Which is C.account.
Correct, yeah.
I don't know. You just have to understand this, right? Let me see another example. It's max amount, group by, yeah, from table A, first name as name. Yeah, maybe you can do something like that, but I barely use it. It's an advanced, it's not really advanced, because it's SQL, right? It's similar to SQL, and you should be able to use alias. But then again, we're not really doing much query, right? Just one ID or two IDs, and we're fine.
Thank you.
No worries. No worries. So basically, let me explain again, because this is the reason why we got lost was because we're trying to do like a very simple stuff, and we're trying to make it complex. So let me explain again, okay? We have this create and update lead from yesterday, which is fine. To create a lead, if it exists, you look for the lead and you check if it's empty. If it's not empty, you just replace the ID with the new lead. If it is empty, that means it's a new lead, and we create a new lead, but we check if the company is present in that company, in that lead. If it's not, then we create not applicable. Now, let's go back. Create or update lead preference. If you want to create or update a lead preference, what are the fields you need to have? This is the lead preference object. What can you insert into a lead preference object? You can insert the name, which is this. You can insert a preference, which is this. And you can insert is active, which is this. Okay? So as you can see, you can insert 3 things, even 4 things, the lead. Okay? And that is what we just quickly demonstrated here. I created a lead, a preference, and I just inserted a new lead preference. And the only thing I put there was the preference, which I created earlier. So what does that mean? It means that I can insert active if I want to. This is the CRUD we've done before, right? I can say LF dot is active. True. That means I have inserted an active. Maybe you might not understand this LF thing. I can just call it lead preference. So you can actually know that it's it's just anything I want to call it. New lead preference, new lead preference, new lead preference, okay? And what else can you insert? I can insert a lead. But before you can insert a lead, what do you need? You need that lead, okay? You need to have that lead before you can insert a lead. So what does that mean? It means for me to insert a lead, the lead.id. For me to insert the lead.id, I must have created the lead. What is the lead? This is the lead. Okay? So we're not doing anything different than what we already know. Okay? And I can put the last name because a lead needs to have a last name, right? Okay, so I've created a preference center, insert. I've created a lead, insert. How do I create a lead preference? I create the lead, but remember, I cannot insert a lead. I need to insert the ID of the lead I created. Similarly with preference, I need to insert the ID of the preference I created. Then it's active, it's just another field on my lead preference. So using that understanding that this is how to insert a lead preference. You need to have a preference, you need to have a lead. Then you insert a lead preference, which is fine. Close this. Now, using that approach, we want to create or update a lead preference. How do we create or update a lead preference? Before we can create or update a lead preference, we need to check if the lead preference exists. For us to know if the lead preference exists, we can just query the lead and look for the lead preference because we know that the relationship between a lead and a lead preference is this. I can get the lead from the lead preference and vice versa. Then I just go and say, okay, in all the leads, get me the value of all the lead where the lead that is coming in matches this. Alternatively, I can just say the lead objects dot email if I want to be very specific. Okay, email. That means I'm checking the lead in the system and I'm only getting all leads where the lead matches the email we're given in the lead that is coming in. That is this query. This query we did previously when we were studying SOQL, okay? So now, the list preference, what are we doing here? We're given a preference center, which is this. But the preference could be a string because it's going to be a program. However, we can make it a preference if we want to, okay? So if you query a preference, what do you get? You get a list of preference. But if you put a where clause, where the LPF.id, okay? If you're looking based on ID, then you query based on ID. So by LPF, you can call it preference object. It doesn't matter, whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. As long as you're replacing it like this. So why am I using .id? I'm using .id because this is an object. If this was an ID, I don't need to use preference object.id. I can just put ID equals ID, but this one is not an ID, it's an object. An object has all the properties of that object, like the fields, okay? So now that we've gotten all the preferences in the system, let's now look through this lead. I look through this lead and I'm checking if this lead dot preferences is not empty. That means the lead has a lead preference present inside it. Okay? That means the lead has a lead preference present inside it. Then you can loop through. Alternatively, what you can do is this. You can take this query and go vice versa. So you can say, okay, I don't want the lead. What about if I come as a lead preference? Because I know that lead preference should have lead. Okay? And it should have a preference. Okay? So I know this stuff exists. I know. So what does this tell me? It tells me that I can just say this, okay? It tells me that I can query this instead. Instead of doing all this, I can just close it like this, look for lead and look for preference. Just look for them. Don't even stress yourself over going via the lead objects. Go via the normal lead preference objects. Then you can now look through list of lead preferences. What are you getting here? You're getting list of lead preferences. Okay? Now that you've gotten list of lead preferences, you're looping through the list of lead preferences, and you want to find out if this lead, okay, if the lead that is coming in, if it is present in the lead of list preferences. Alternatively, you can even make it smaller by saying the lead equals the lead that is coming in. Okay? You've made the query smaller. That means you've limited the number of responses. You're only querying for the lead. Okay? Then you can now start looping. If the lead preferences that is coming in, okay, you can put a check there. What is the check you want to put? It's up to you. You can put a check, you can just put, or you might not even need this, okay? Or you can just say if it exists or something like that. So what I'm trying to say is that you can limit the query by passing in the lead objects, right? Instead of having to go backwards, querying leads and querying the lead preference. The only difference is that with this query, you're going to get all the lead preferences that is associated to a lead. That means all the students that is associated to a particular lead preference, okay? So this chances that you can get more data from here. Then you just loop through for the lead preferences in this. Do something. Otherwise, do something, right? So it's up to you what you want to do here. But the bottom line is you should be able to either query like this or query like this. And you check whether this exists or not before you carry out a transaction. Okay? So, based on what we have right now, the best approach is to use this because you have the lead preferences in a lead. This is much cleaner because it will give you all the lead preferences you want, and you can look through them. Okay? So we have this lead preference, and I'm just going to say, okay, what do I want to do? I want to associate the preference that is coming in. Okay, I want to associate the preference that is coming in which is this. If you go to the fields, go to the preferences, this is what you get, okay? So you can have this and you associate it, okay? So what you're trying to do here is you're just trying to create or update based on the values you have here. It's a very tricky stuff, but at the end of the day, you want to find out if the value is present in the list preferences. And if the value is present, you can manipulate. For instance, you can just say, okay, I want to find out if this preference center is present. If this lead, okay, this lead dot preference center equals, okay, this, then do something. Otherwise, do something. So if your check is on the preference center, you can base your check on the preference center. If it's on the lead, you can base your check on the lead. Whatever you want, you have to determine what constitutes a duplicate. So based on what constitutes a duplicate, you can now say, I want to update as a result of this preference center that is present, or I want to insert because this preference center is not present in the system. Okay, so this is how to work with relationship. You can query internally, or you can query externally and put a clause. Whatever it is you want, you can determine the condition that makes it a duplicate. And based on that, you can now insert, you can update, delete preferences, or you can insert, well, obviously, do not do this in a for loop, okay? Do not do this in a for loop. So you can insert the new lead preference. Okay, so that is what we're supposed to do. Okay. Number 29, illegal assignment, preference to ID. So we have this preference, which is the preference condition must be Boolean. Okay, if this, okay. Condition must be Boolean. That means you want to check if this is true or false. Give me 1 minute. What can you do here? What can you do here? Yeah, just check if it's not empty. What else can you do? I want to check if the stuff is not empty. If the stuff is not empty, doesn't solve anything. If it's equal to the ID, okay? So we can check that. We can just check the ID, and we can equate. So what should we check? We can check something. What is essentially saying is that this is a Boolean. Okay, that means you cannot do equal to. If you want to check something, you have to do a Boolean and do the check. Okay, so you cannot say if this equal to something like this. You cannot do something like this when it comes to Apex. You have to literally have a true or false statement in your if condition. Okay, so you have to check for true or false. Okay, so it's saying arithmetic expression must be numeric arguments. Numeric arguments to what's numeric argument? Let me see. Lead preference. Yeah, just check the size. Check the size, okay? So if it exists, you want to check the size, or you want to check if it's empty, okay? You can check if it's empty, okay? You can check. If it's not empty, then you update, okay? So you can check that. And what else can you check? What else can you check? We need to take this off. You want to check the ID. I want to check a condition that will respond if it's of certain type ID. To check if it's string, or let me see. Okay. You can just do something like this as well. The bottom line is you want this to be Boolean, or you want this to be Boolean. Let's store it into something. Maybe if we store the value of this lead preference into something. So ID preference equals this, okay? Okay. Then you can just say some preference or the preference, okay? Then you can just say if the preference is of type ID, if the preference is of type ID, or if ID is not blank, it's not blank, ID apex. So you want to check ID is not blank. You can just say it's blank. It's blank. It's blank, okay? Boolean is blank. Then you pass it, okay? Boolean is blank. Yeah. You can check the ID to find out if it's blank or not, okay? You can check this as well. Okay. It's a string blank. You can check if it's null, and you can just check, okay? So the bottom line is you need to check something. If you don't check something, there is no way you can tell if something is present or not. You want to check if the preference center is present. If it is present, then you can do something about it. If it is not, then you cannot do something. You can update or insert, okay? So that's what we're just checking. I'm just looking for a logical check that will make sure that the preference is working, okay? So we have two brackets, okay? So pretty much you have to do something if this is present, and if it's not, you have to do something. So basically, if this preference center exists, then you update. If it does not exist, then you create a new record. The bottom line is, what are you querying? This is what I want you guys to understand. If you understand what you're querying and why you're querying it, all this stuff is just normal for loop. What we've just done today is just the same thing as we've always done before. The only difference is the relationship. Okay? Again, I query the lead if I want to find the lead preferences from the lead. Alternatively, I query the lead preferences if I want to go directly and look for the lead and the preferences that is present in the lead preferences. Then I loop through the lead preferences and I check if the value of the preference is null, it's blank. If the value is blank, if it's not blank, sorry. If it's not blank, then I can update the lead preference based on whatever I want to update. For instance, I might just bring the lead objects, I might bring the preference object here and update or manipulate things. Alternatively, you create a new lead preference if this is false. Okay, so that is how to work with relationship. More importantly, how to just use your query to find out what to do based on the values you're getting from the query. Okay, please, if you don't understand what I've just done, try as much as possible to just play around with this query. And also, you can use this to find out what you can do. For instance, you can query the lead and find out all the associating properties of the lead. You can query the lead preference, find out all the associating properties of the lead preference and the likes, okay? So please. Now, let's do something more interesting. This is the basic stuff, but there is more to just creating and updating records. That is baby stuff, right? Even though we kind of like got a bit confused with that, is baby stuff. Before we go into the next stuff, Sagal, do you have any question?
Yes, my question is the second query we did. Is it the second one? No, sorry. The first one, the select ID from lead preferences are. The lead preferences are. We did it because it's a child. But let's say before I saw it, I saw you in the code doing lead preferences with an S and then the related with the R. When you're in the code, do you always have to do it, or should we do it lead preferences dot with the double C instead? When we're doing it in the code, in the code.
In the code, which is double C. And so if it is a child relationship, you want to do double underscore har, okay? Double underscore har. But if it is just a normal query, you want to do double underscore C, just like what we did here.
Oh, I mean, like, let's say we want to loop through it, or let's say we're doing something else, then we do the double C, right?
Yes, if you want to store, or if you want to, like this right now. So if I want to insert a new lead preference, okay? If I want to insert a new lead preference, I just put it here like this. Then I say, this is the object coming in, right? And I just put it like this. That's inserted, that's associating that lead preference like this. But if you want to grab the ID, then I think you have to do something, something like .id. Then you grab .id, something like this. Okay. So can you see the R?
Yeah, without the S, right?
Yeah, without the C. Oh yeah, without the S, sorry, without the S.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just know what you like is the relationship you're trying to look for, right? The relationship is what determines whether you put double underscore R or E or S and stuff like that. Okay.
Oh, even within the code. So is there going to be a time where I have to put the S and the R in the code?
Yes, it's based on this. What you have here is what you should use.
So it's not only while I'm doing this, the SOQL, it can also be outside of the SOQL.
No, I think it's within the SOQL.
Okay.
Within the SOQL. Because SOQL is like the relationship, right? It's within the SOQL.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No worries. So now, this is how to just manipulate stuff. It's very basic, but we spent some time because we did not even prepare the relationship. We just kind of like get started in relationship, okay? But in more advanced, or would I say in a practical situation, you would, first of all, develop your relationship, understand that there is no master detail within two custom standard and custom objects. The standard needs to be a master, and the custom needs to be detail, okay? So know that kind of modeling before you get into creating stuff. Maybe you might not want to use lead, you want to use student and the likes, okay? That's for your own understanding. Now let's go into something similar to what we've just done, but a little bit different. I've been using this class. Let's create a new class, and I'll call it, let me call it leads, or you can call it anything, okay? I want to introduce you to this concept of constructor, okay? Constructor is used to predetermine how to call a method, okay? It's used to predetermine how you can call a method. So if you have something like this, which obviously never going to happen, but if you have something like this, you can say, okay, anytime I want to call the leads, I want to be able to call the leads by passing in different value inside the leads. For instance, I can say, okay, public, okay, leads. Meaning that I can call this lead without doing anything. I can just call it. Alternatively, I can call this the lead by just saying, okay, public leads, and I want to pass in something, string X, string Y, into this lead. That means I'm constructing, okay? I'm passing in arguments, and I can still do more. I want to pass this and only pass one string. So what exactly is this? What I'm trying to say is that I can say, if I want to create a method, I can pass in different values or different inputs. And based on those inputs, the system would automatically know what I want to do. Okay? So to make it even easier, let me demonstrate the power of constructor for you. Okay? I say I have an employee, and I have a string called employee name. And I have another string called employee number. Okay? I want to create different constructors for employee. Constructor is the way I want to present employee in future. Okay? I want to call employee differently. So a sample constructor could be, I call an employee and I pass in, no, I don't pass in anything. I just specify the default employee name and the default employee number. String, okay? That's fine. So now I've specified a simple constructor. Anytime I call a method called employee, if I call a method called employee, the system would automatically get me something, employee name Olajide, employee number 12. How? So employee, new employee, then system.debug, employee. If you query, if you run this, you're going to have on your debug what you have in your employee, which is pretty much basic, right? But you can do more than that. You can say public employee with some inputs, string employee name, No, you can say string some name, string some number. Then you create a constructor that says whatever the value of employee name is, okay? Whatever the value of employee name is, I want to be able to say my employee name is some name. And my employee number is some number. You just kind of like give variation into how you can call your constructor. So what does that mean? It means that in future, I can create a constructor like this, and I can create a constructor like this, which is passing in some name. What is some name? Ade and some number 101. So you will see that the answer or the print on employee 1 and employee 2 will be different. So you will see how this stuff will come up when you're coding. You want to be able to initialize a class, but you don't want to overwhelm that class. Okay? You don't want to overwhelm that class. That means you want to call that class without any input, any arguments. You want to pass in the default value. You will see when you'll be coding, you will need to pass in a default value into a class, because you don't always need to specify the inputs. Or maybe you don't have all the inputs. What if employee number does not exist? This is a very use case. You can just say, okay, employee number does not exist. Then you do not pass in employee number. That means you should have a constructor of this type. Employee without number. Okay, that means you can pass in 2 inputs, 1 input, or no inputs. Alternatively, you can still also say, okay, if employee number is null, do something. That means within your code, you can say, if some number is empty, right? It's empty. Some number is empty. String, some number is empty. Then you want to do something. Maybe you want to now say employee number is something. Can you see, like, there's a way you can write a robust code where you predefine the value of certain string. Okay? So now that you've seen variation into how you can, it's telling you that you've already used this stuff. So you cannot declare the same method at the same time. So what you can do here is you can just change this to integer, okay? And you can call this one string some name. Okay? Yeah, something like that. But again, it's just that you cannot create the same type of method. You have to change the method, okay? So that is how to initialize a constructor and use a constructor in your code. Okay? Now, one of your colleagues asked, tonight I'm just kind of like giving you some extra stuff on Apex because you're not supposed to know all this as an entry level developer. But then again, it's going to help you in terms of best practice and how you can optimize your code, okay? So it's always good to have a good understanding of how to use Apex. So let's imagine we have another use case, a case study. One of the colleagues asked the other day that, what if you have a list and you have a set? and you have a string as data that is coming in. How do you store this value? And I said, we shouldn't go into advanced stuff because that will require you to understand what is called a wrapper. Okay? A wrapper is a class that you can virtually create, and it will wrap all this data as if you have them in a list. Okay? So remember this. If you have different data that is coming in, you can create a virtual object. Okay? It's like a container. Wrapper is like a container whereby you can collect a data structure or abstract data type of any type, and you can put it as if those data is part of an object. What is the use case of this? If you're integrating APIs, the data you'll be given, you don't know the structure. You probably know the JSON, right? You know the JSON, maybe client, then you know that this is 1, 2, 3, then you know first name equals this, right? Then you know this one is Boolean, which is true. It's paid true. Okay? So it's going to be like something like this. So you don't have a good way to store this. You don't have a good way to store this because this one has all the type of, no, I will call it client number. So they tell you that the data type of this is integer. The data type of this is string. The data type of this is Boolean. And I don't know, maybe the data type of this is list. Now you've seen like so I'm just simulating a sample API response, okay? So you've seen a use case of this, right? I'm integrating API and I'm getting a response like this, meaning that I cannot just store this into a variable. I cannot store into any data type in Apex because there is no data type that has integer, Boolean, string, and list all in one. There is no data type like that. I just hope you guys are you're thinking along where I'm going. It means that I need to be able to create a custom object, virtual custom objects. That would help me store all this, such as dots, okay? Remember, the virtual custom object does not exist. It's something I'm just making up. I'm making it up because there is no way I can store all this information in one object in Salesforce. Salesforce only has limited data type to start with. So I need to create what they call a wrapper. A wrapper, again, I will say, is like a container that collects different types of data type and enables you to store those information. Okay? And the use case of this wrapper is if you're integrating APIs. Maybe in your project, you're going to integrate Shopify with Salesforce. Shopify will give you a response, sample JSON response. That is what Shopify will give you. This is the sample data Shopify will give you. Now you have to convert this data into Apex. How do you convert this data into Apex? This is where I'm going. You will need to use a wrapper class. You will need to be able to build a virtual wrapper class. So how do you create a wrapper class? The same way you start, you can just create, okay, let's say we want to create sample wrapper class. Okay, sample wrapper class. And what type of class do you want to create? Let's say we want to be able to collect an account object, and I want to collect other things in that account object. So the first thing first is I need to create a wrapper class or a wrapper method for the account. So public, I can just say, okay, what about contacts? Or let's just create lead, okay? Lead wrapper. Okay, so because lead is coming into the system and you want to be able to collect all the lead information, you create a lead wrapper and you say, okay, this is my wrapper class. And my wrapper class, I want to be able to collect lead and other things I do not know about lead. Maybe preference center, maybe lead preferences, maybe whatever it is. So whatever it is, I need to declare it inside that lead. Okay, the first thing is the lead object, which I explained. If you look at this stuff, where is the code we were working on earlier? Can you see? It's coming lead object, preference object. Okay, that is where I'm going. You have the lead wrapper, okay? And inside the lead wrapper, you're collecting what? The lead. After you collected the lead, you use what they call the get and set method. The get and set method is just you getting and setting the value of the lead. Now, besides the lead, I want to get something else. Let's say I want to get public lead is active. Lead is active. So Boolean is active. Okay. And that is another variable I want to collect in my wrapper. So normally the lead would give you all the features of a lead. The lead will give you all the features of a lead, meaning that all the properties of a lead you can get from the lead object. But there is nothing like it's active in a lead, and I'm not creating that field on the lead. So it's virtual to the lead, okay? But you still need to put a getter and a setter, okay? Now that you've created this wrapper, you need now to initialize the wrapper using constructor. What I told you, what I discussed earlier, constructor. Constructor is how do you intend? Remember when I was creating constructor? When I was creating constructor, leads, but your constructor needs to be the name of the class. Leads. It has to match. That's the only way you can create a constructor. The name of this class needs to match all the constructor you are initializing in that class. Now, I have a lead wrapper. I want to create a lead wrapper constructor. How do I do that? I simply just create a constructor. So meaning that anytime someone calls lead wrapper, I want to be able to pass in a lead. And I want to be able to pass in is active, a Boolean. Okay? Some condition. So you don't want it to be the same thing as the thing you've named them, okay? Some condition. some lead. Okay, so now that you have that, this is the wrapper. Make sure the name matches each other. Then you now say, anytime they call lead wrapper, what do you want? I want this lead to be equal to some lead that they are passing into the wrapper. And I want this is active to be some condition they're passing in to the wrapper. I have literally created a wrapper. You can expand this wrapper to anything. Public list of accounts, whatever it is. Okay? Then you can just say public list of accounts, the accounts. Then you put a get and you put a set. Can you see how we can expand this to any data type we have in the system? I can go and do sets. I can do integer. I can keep increasing that wrapper to accept anything I want, as long as it is a valid Apex data type. The bottom line is I am building my own class. I don't have to depend on creating a new object and start creating fields. I am literally building my own class in my code. Okay? So now that we have this wrapper, what can we do with a wrapper? What can we achieve with a wrapper? What is the essence of doing all this? The essence of doing all this is to accept the data that is coming in. So if I want to accept data that is coming in, what do I need to do? I need to collect that data as an input, and I need to call a method that would accept it, which is the wrapper. Do you understand what I mean? The wrapper is the method that will accept it. I've created this wrapper. It can currently collect a lead and a variable called is active, which is a boolean. Okay? And this is the initialization, the constructor of this. If I want to call this wrapper, what do I need to do? I need to call the constructor for this wrapper. Okay? Anytime you're calling constructor, just put it in public. Okay, remember the name has to match if you're creating a constructor. The name has to match if you're creating a constructor. Okay? You can only create a constructor inside the class. Okay? You can only create a constructor of this class inside the class. I'm creating a constructor of this class inside the class. Okay? So now that we have this, I can just say, okay, now that I want to now do something inside my constructor, what do I want to do? I want to call this lead wrapper and pass in data inside this lead wrapper. Okay? I just call. So if I want to store the data, I need to first of all declare a list. I can store the data inside. Okay? Public list of lead wrapper. Okay, which is wrap lead list. Okay, so I've just created or initialized a list of lead wrapper, which is fine. But when you're initializing, always try to put a get setter. Okay, always try to put a get setter. You'll get to see more of this get setter in your visuals. Your visual first pages. So now I've initialized this. Okay, I have this, and I want to be able to store values into this list because this list is of this wrapper. Okay, it's of this wrapper. So now what do I need to do? I just need to store the value. What can I store? I need to, give me 1 minute. I need to call this, right? And I need to store data into this. So all I just need to do is, I need to initialize, so I have this, okay? And just 1 minute. This is a type of, okay. Okay, so I've initialized this. So now it's saying constructor not valid, which is fine. So you just say new list of lead wrapper. Okay, and so when you're creating a new list of lead wrapper, you've initialized this, okay, which is this. Now you can just say I want to get the data. Okay. I want to get data into it. How do I get data into it? I just say, okay, just give me 1 minute. Wrap lead list. How can I get lead? Let me get lead. Let me get lead first. Lead, sample lead equals select ID name from lead. Okay. So I've gotten a lead, a sample lead, which is fine. Then what do I want to do? I want to loop through the lead. Okay. I'm looping through the lead. So when I'm looping through the lead, I want to be able to store the value I'm getting inside this wrapper lead list. So what is the way to store value inside this lead wrapper? I need a lead and I need a boolean, okay? I need a lead and I need a boolean. So all I just need to do is new lead wrapper, okay? Which is the lead, and where can I get boolean? Where can I get boolean? Let's just use this for now, okay? So I've literally created a record for this wrapper lead list. I've literally created a record for this wrapper lead list. So let me explain this. Let me explain. The first thing first, I created a wrapper. What is a wrapper? A wrapper is a container, virtual container that can contain different data type. Okay? That can contain different data type. And based on those different data type, I can create data inside a list. And this list is of lead wrapper, meaning that this lead would have a lead, would have a boolean, and if it has other integer lists, it will have an integer and it will have a list. Okay? Now, how do you get a lead? I just queried a lead from the database to just grab me a lead. And I also need a boolean in order to create my lead wrapper data. It's just a simulation, okay? Simulation in the sense that this could be coming from anywhere, okay? Then I have initialized this and I've added it to the list. So basically, I can do a system.debug to find out what is in my list. I can just quickly do that. But before that, I think we're missing something. Loop must iterate over a collection of lead. Collection of lead, okay? I know this is advanced stuff for tonight, but just take your time, you understand. But everything has to do with what we've learned in previous times, okay? Missing at list. Did we miss anything? Give me 1 minute. Is there anything we're missing? Is there anything else? Wrapper class, that's fine. It said something is missing. Is there a quote somewhere? Lead wrapper, that's fine. Lead wrapper. Show me, where am I missing something? Am I missing something anywhere? It says like a quote is missing somewhere. Where is it missing? On line 6, wrapper list equals new list of lead wrapper, which is fine. Okay. So is there anything I'm missing? Lead wrapper. Oh, no, I'm not missing anything. Missing what's it called? Missing end of. Maybe take out list. Do I need to take out list? Because we're initializing a wrapper list, right? This is what we're initializing, a wrapper list. So I don't need to take out list. You get? Okay, so let's see again. Let me just save. So I have a sample wrapper, which is this. That's fine. Wrapper list. Let me just take this off for a minute to find out if I'm missing something. Okay, missing at, it says something. List to lead wrapper. Lead wrapper. The error is here. I'm trying to find out what the error is here. Is there anything wrong with this statement? I have a wrapper list, wrapper lead list, and I'm initializing a lead wrapper. Okay. Sample wrapper class. Okay. Guys, this is part of the error you're going to get. Okay. So let me see. Am I missing out something? You guys should tell me. Public list, wrapper list. Do I need to check for something? Give me 1 minute. Do I need to check for something? 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 List. Do I need to check for something? Let me see. If, okay, let's see if wrapper lead list is equal to null, okay? Let's see that. Let's see. What if we don't have any value in wrapper list? It's still missing at least. Wrapper list, new list, list of wrapper. I'm not missing something. It should be obvious. If I'm missing something, it should be obvious. Lead wrapper, lead wrapper. So someone pasted this in the, obviously. I'm not sure, because we already declared the type of wrapper here, right? So why are we declaring it again? We already declared the type of wrapper. That doesn't, you don't finally tie wrapper. Okay, let's get serious. Let's look for the error. I'm just trying to find out what missing end of at least. So let's take this off for a minute. Okay, let's take this off for a minute and let's see. Okay, let's just have this here. Okay, which we haven't done much. Okay, let's see what happens. Unless there's something wrong with that line of code. Let's see. It's still saving. There must be something wrong with that. Let's see. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. It's about employee. It has nothing to do with our wrapper. This is about employee. Okay, it's about the employee class. It has nothing to do with our wrapper class. So our wrapper statement, everything is fine. Okay, sorry about that. I was just confused. I was like, why is it giving me error? Okay, so please, this is about this stuff. That is why it's giving us. So we just need to kind of like comment all this stuff away if you want to have a clean screen. Okay, sorry about that. I was a bit confused. I was like, what's going on? Because I wasn't sure where the error was coming from. So the error was as a result of our employee. Okay, it's not our wrapper. Our wrapper is fine. So let me walk you through the wrapper again, because it makes me look stupid, but then again, I know what I'm doing. Lead wrapper is this. The lead wrapper can take anything, okay? We can take integer, we can take list. Then after you've initialized what it can take, then you create a constructor. A constructor is the value they are passing into this wrapper when they are creating a record. What is the value equivalent to in your initialization? Once you get that, then you go to the wrapper, generate a wrapper list, which is fine. Okay, then what you want to do here is, first of all, initialize the wrapper list, okay? Initialize the wrapper list, which is new list, and you want to get the wrapper list and initialize it. So now you've initialized the wrapper list, which is fine. So what else do you want to do? You want to put in a lead, some lead. So in order to put in some lead, I just simulate querying a lead in our system. After that, I need to put in some condition. So instead of me just saying, put in some condition, I can just put in some condition like true or false. So I say, for all the leads in the system, create a lead wrapper, which is the lead, okay, and a Boolean condition, okay? Some lead and a Boolean condition, the lead and a Boolean condition. Then I want you to debug that lead. So what that means is this. I can call this wrapper class, okay? I can call this wrapper class in our debug, and based on my call, it's going to do something. Okay, I can just say wrapper class or sample wrapper class equals new this, okay? Because I'm not putting anything in the wrapper. I expect it to just give me what SW is, okay? Let's see. Let's see if there's any other thing. Okay? And that's it. So I've created what I refer to as a virtual lead that gives me this data type, and I can do stuff. Let me go back and show you how to add more stuff. Let's say I want to have an integer. Okay, then I say also pass in an integer, in some integer in the wrapper, and some number would be equal to some integer that is being passed in the wrapper. Okay, then I go to my constructor. What can I use in the lead object that is an integer? So we have some varying stuff. In the lead object, I have, what's an integer? An integer, yeah, there's not really much. Okay, number of employees. Number of employees and integer. I just say the lead dot number of employees, okay? Which is kind of like, yes, the wrapper lets you pass in anything you want. It's like you're now creating your own data type. You're creating your own data type. Watch out for this. You're going to use it in your project. So please try to understand this. That's why I'm spending so much time even after the class. I'm trying to let you understand this. Wrapper, you can pass in anything. Create it first, declare it, and create the condition, the initialization. Then once you create that wrapper, whenever you want to pass the data, just call it, add new wrapper. That's it. So if I debug this again, you will see that there will be, okay, there's no number of employee in any lead record. Let me simulate one with the number of employees. Okay, number of employees. I'll put 10. So at least we're going to have one. Okay, and this is the benefit of you using a where clause. Okay, you need to use a where clause. Where number of employees is not null, right? It's not null. Okay. Now that you have that, you have some integer, you're good to go. Okay. Delete. Okay. So let's quickly run this and we close for tonight without querying the requested field. So it's telling you that you are trying to use number of employees without querying the number of employees. You need to query the number of employees before you can use the number of employees. Remember what I told you in our SOKR. You cannot use the number of employees without querying the number of employees. Okay? So what else again? Lead the number of employees. Did I not save it? I need to save. Okay, make sure it's saved, then you query. Okay? So if you look at your log, you will see it's active true, some number 9,000, then the lead. It's active true, some number 9,000. This is how you start creating your own data type. You are adding a list. You can add a list. You can add a set. You can add anything you want. You have created a virtual object that can take anything. And after that, you are passing in values into the constructor. You see what I taught you tonight, how everything comes together. Create or insert objects, data into the objects, the constructor, and a wrapper class. Okay, I'm going to stop here for tonight. Please indicate by raising your hand so I can quickly address those questions. Then we stop for tonight, okay? Ola, unmute yourself, please, and speak. If you still want to ask a question, let me know. But Ola, unmute yourself and speak, please. Ola, can you unmute yourself and speak? Your hands are raised up. Ola, unmute yourself and speak. Okay, Ola is not speaking, so we go to Tolex. You asked, what did you use to determine the boolean on line 10? What did you use to determine the boolean on line 10? Oh, I just put it here. It's just true or false. Okay. So what that means is I just put it here. But again, if you want it to be dynamic, you can look for any lead objects and look for a checklist. Okay. Look for a checklist. Do not call. That's not a good checklist. Look for any checklist. Okay. This is a checklist. If this is a checklist, you want to use it, then use it. The bottom line is you need to be passing in dynamic record into your wrapper. So the data do not look the same, right? So make sure you put do not call in your query. That's it. So it was something I had coded previously, but you could also use data from the lead object. But remember, the whole purpose is not to use data from the lead object. The whole purpose, like I said, is API integration. API integration, meaning that you don't even know if the data is in an object. The data is coming from a sample website like this. So how would you represent type, article, string, ID, maybe Salesforce ID, relationship, created date? You have to use a date time. Age, you have to use integer. Okay? That's the purpose of a wrapper. Please try to understand what we've learned tonight. It's very important, okay? Is there any other question before we stop for tonight? Okay, I hope I've not overwhelmed you guys, but we haven't really done anything, to be honest. We haven't done anything. What we've just done is we've created a wrapper and we've called our wrapper and we add our wrapper into a list. So if you want to make life easier for you, you could initialize your lead wrapper like this. Some lead wrapper, okay? You can initialize it like this and just add some lead wrapper to your list. The same adding of data into list, the same initialization that we've done, the same everything we've done everything we've done tonight. The only difference is it is now coming together and we need this, okay? So please try to understand what we've just done and try to master it. It will be useful for your coding. As an entry-level developer, you might not need to integrate APIs, but what if they ask you to integrate APIs? This is how you start building your APIs, okay? But as an entry-level developer, you might not need it, but I just needed to teach you guys. So it's part of your learning. So master it and let's see how it goes, okay? All the best, guys. Take care. Have a good night. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.